Hello everyone.
저는 오늘 제2일차 발표의 제3 세션의 사회를 맡은 박지영이라고 합니다.
I am Bak Ji-young, who will preside the third session today. It is an honor for me to be with such great Bhikshunis and scholars here today. This morning, 어떤 가르침과 정법을 이루어지고 있는지에 대해서 소개해드리는 그런 시간입니다. There will be presentations on Korean Bhikshunis and also we'll hear from Venerable Haesan on the Daeheng meditation.
그래서 이렇게 4분의 발표가 있을 예정입니다만 어제 좀 피곤하셨죠?
Were you tired yesterday? There are a few who have traveled a long distance.
발표를 좀 길었고 해서 오늘은 처음 발표 두 분이 하신 다음에
We'll take a break after two presentations and then we will continue.
자, 그럼 먼저
Now first,
첫 번째 발표를 맡아주신 분을 소개해
we'll invite
하겠습니다.
the first presentator. She is
오늘 첫 번째로 한국 비구니 승가의 현황과 개선 방안
she's the president of the Korean National Bhikshuni Association. Please give her a round of applause.
네, 본가스님께서는 일본 공화자와
she achieved a doctorate degree in Japan and also now she is an honorary professor at Joong-Ang Monastic University.
네, 지금 소개해 주신 본각입니다.
Hello, I am Bongak 스님.
한마음 선언 요공당 대행 선생님의 주기를 제언해서 이렇게 큰 국제 학술 대회를
Marking the 10th death anniversary of Venerable Myeogong Daeheng,
한국에서 이 거룩한 행사에 함께 참석해 주셔서 한국 비구니 항상
on behalf of the Korean Bhikkhuni Saṅgha, I'm very pleased to see all these attendees from around the world. I found that yesterday's presentations were very interesting.
우리 사카리타 멤버께 제가 천천히 말씀드리겠다 이렇게 부탁을 드렸습니다만
I promise that I speak slowly to translators, but I'm not sure how it will go. Yesterday, Venerable Somo described the status of Himalayan nuns and how they went through difficulties. One thing still remains on my mind is that the current nuns have the equal opportunity right now. This is the beginning of having equal opportunity. They might not know this, but this is true. So this
지금 세계의 그 티베트 비구니 상행자를 정말 그 티베트뿐만이 아니라 저희 한국과
that
같은
we have to support the growing seminaries not only in Tibetan tradition but also in Korea. And I thought about the ways that we can help out those nuns in Tibetan traditions.
우리 툭텐 제도 스님이 그 사카리타에 가면은 자주 배웠던 어른이십니다.
I've met Venerable Jebdon Cheden a few times at the Shakadita conference.
서양에서 한국 불교 내지는 대만 불교를 받으셔서 그 해나가시는 거에 그렇게 어려움이 있으시구나.
And I also found out that Venerable Samu in the United States have a lot of difficulties to establish monasteries and grow Saṅgha in there. things that we have taken granted in Korea, but other nuns in Western countries have such difficulties. So, so tears welled up in my eyes while I was listening to the presentation. So I wondered how I can help those nuns in the Western countries, and secretly, Venerable Thomo told us that there will be an ordination, Bhikkhuni ordination in Bhutan, and so I want to send a flower pot to Bhutan. How can I do that? I just wondered. I spent 9 years in Japan studying. I thought I'm well acquainted with Japanese Buddhism, but the story of Venerable Hikuko and also Midorikawa, the stories were very inspiring. Under the big umbrella of Buddhism, we have such different situations in each countries and in each situations. Today, I'm gonna tell you about how strong Korean Bhikkhuni Saṅgha is, and also the parts that I don't wanna reveal to you, and ask for your help. The Korean Bhikkhuni Saṅgha didn't have big problems so far, and the lay followers were very devoted, and we didn't experience a lot of gender discrimination. But there was a little bit of discrimination between genders, but about having opportunities of education and running monasteries or hosting rituals, in those aspects, we can say that we were equal as bhikkhus. We have equal opportunity to get basic monastic education, but we've been interested in the Bhikkhuni Saṅgha overseas. When you were experiencing a lot of difficulties, I thought we were only satisfied with our current situation and didn't really care about others. Korea is facing a deep plummeting of birth rate within last 5 years. This is a very prominent phenomena, and we are also facing the rapid reduction in the number of Saṅgha members. As a president of the National Bhikkhuni Association, I took the charge of the duty last 2020, and one of my projects is to open international monastic school, training school. In Korea, novices should go through 4 years of basic education. So every 6 months or every year, at length 2 years, we will invite the seminaries from overseas and provide monastic education like monastic etiquette and also doctrines and Buddhist philosophy. Then they will have the opportunity to get to know the Korean Buddhist culture and Buddhism. But as you know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is halted. The project has been stopped.
각국의 스님들, 불교 관계자들께서 정말 한국에는 출가자가 그렇게 부족하고 저희가 사찰이나 모든 비구니들이 하는 것을 10년 뒤에는 과연 누가 할 것인가?
Because as we are facing the big plummeting of the number of
우리 비구니 스님
Bhikkhuni Sangha, not only in Korea but also in the other countries, we have to educate the followers, Buddhist followers, to be as equal as monastics. So that's why Venerable Haju's presentation was so impressive about raising keys in the temple.
어느 연령이 되면 짝수하고 기본 교육을 받고 그 계율에 의지해서 삭각 영위하고 철저하게 수행자를 갖는 그런 패턴에서는 굉장히 다른 모습이에요.
Those stories were different. The stories presented in the Venerable Haju was very different actually from Korean traditional Buddhism. But now I understand that we are in a different era. Joge older Korean Buddhism is the biggest sect in Korea. About 15 years ago, people get ordained aged before 30, and youngsters got ordained, and before youngsters got ordained, and they were the majority of the Buddhist Sangha. Now we are allowing people we are allowing people in their 50s to get ordained, and these older people are got more accustomed to secular life, and it is very difficult for them to adjust in a new way of lifestyle in monastery. Now we are extending the ordination age limitation to 60. So we cannot say they are well-trained monastics, but they have skills in different fields. So it can be very helpful to running and operating monasteries. So after hearing many stories from overseas, of course it is difficult to abandon the habits you accumulated during secular life. You know, there are people who have families and children, but Korea should give up the traditional way of getting ordained in terms of the age. So we have to accept the current situation, current trend of letting people, older people and people who have families, let them to get ordained. We have to accept this trend. We have institute at Korean National Bhikkhuni Association, and we study history of Korean. We study Korean Bhikkhuni history, and we invited the head of the institute here. And the researchers also came to the conference yesterday. Because we wanted to know the status of Korean Bhikkhuni Sangha, we sent out a survey to the Bhikkhunis across the nation in 2020. This is the first time solely we surveyed Bhikkhunis. So I'm going to present the result of the survey today. Because I cannot see the letters clearly because of my old age, I thought that this is my last time to be on the presentation stage. I'm just going to tell you the main points. We always say we have 6,000 Bhikkhunis in Korea. We sent out magazines on smartphone every month with pictures and messages. The receivers are over 5,000, and there are other Bhikkhunis in different sects. They calculate about 10,000, so that's why we say 6,000 Bhikkhunis in Korea. Venerable Shangshan from yesterday's presentation from Taiwan said that they have to practice Buddhism but also have to work a lot. Korean Bhikkhunis also say the same thing. We have a lot of tasks. And for me, I have to do one thing. Then when the time comes, I have to go to the Dhamma hall to deliver Dhamma talks. The Bhikkhuni Center also runs Dhamma hall. So as in Japanese Buddhism, they finance their economy by praying for the dead. In Korea, it's the same. The way we finance our monastery comes from praying for the dead. It's not solely for earning money, but anyway, it creates a lot of chores. That's true. When followers get sick, we have to go to hospital. When they pass away, we also have to lead rituals. There are many things to do. So, as the Venerable Changshin yesterday said, we are very busy in Korea. The Bhikkhunis, we have to handle a lot of tasks. I wonder if other Bhikkhunis in other traditions have to go to weddings or have to lead death rituals. But in Korea, we always have to attend those events. That's one of the most burdensome tasks, and that is also a way that supports us financially. In the past, there were many monastics, so it was less burdensome. From my perspective as the president of the Bhikkhuni Sangha Association, there are many Bhikkhuni monasteries with only one abbot, or only 2 or 3 monastics living. So I recommend that young Bhikshunis that don't establish new monastery, you will find the empty ones in a few years later. As we have a long-standing 1,700 years of Buddhist history, we also have such difficulties. About 20 years ago, I met Pope. I stayed there overnight, and I saw African ladies cleaning, African nuns cleaning the places. So I thought that this phenomenon will also come to Korea. So we planned to establish international monastic school, and we have many empty rooms at the Bhikkhuni Center. But because of pandemic, all plans stopped. You might just say that seemingly Korean Bhikkhuni Sangha do not have problems, but we actually the current status is like this. So at least 1,000 of Bhikshunis took part in the survey. The respondents are like this. Take a look at the table. 76.7% of nuns received the Bhikkhuni precepts out of the whole respondents. Yesterday we had preliminary monastics. Those were some seminaries. We are not saying that they are full monastics. Yesterday we had seminaries from 3 different monastic training school. They have brown color collars around their jacket. You can tell from it. When they get fully ordained, they remove the brown color. There are monastic centers only for monastics, and 5 to 6 places offer basic education there on meditation. In the past, monastics usually stay at monasteries, at their teacher's monastery or Dharma friend's monastery. But as the age of getting ordained is getting older, people start to have their own house. So when they finish their basic education, then these Bhikshunis go to their own apartment or house. This is one of the things we have to tackle, because when we live in a community, we can grow as renunciants, but those nuns with affluent Bhikshunis disappear after the basic education. So we have to work on this too. When they live alone, they'll go back to their secular life, and which is not like a real monastic life. But when they come back to monastery, there are so many chores. So usually nuns who got ordained at late age, they have this tendency. They have more of this tendency. So where do they live? This is a very important criteria to measure the health and the soundness of Sangha. Nuns said that they got ordained to avoid the business of life, but they rather face the business in monastery again. So we, with the senior nuns, feel sorry about that. People who get ordained at late age, they get ordained because they want to practice Buddhism. But what they are facing is a lot of chores at a monastery. And when their teacher gets old and have illness, then the disciple, who is not biological family members, have to take care of them too. So this is a burden too. We cannot handle this in traditional way, but we have to find a practical way. For example, we can hire carers, social carers, and the other ways we have to find modern ways to solve these problems. Because people, some nuns disrobe because of these difficulties. Next is, we asked what kind of task or what kind of duties they are taking. In the past, Venerable Tuten said they didn't have enough money. When I was studying in Japan, I didn't have money for 2 months. It is a big trouble when you don't have money when you study abroad. You have to pay monthly in Japan. If you don't have pay rent for a month, then you have to leave the room. So the people around helped me a lot. So based on that experience, I know how hard it is to live without money. Venerable Soma has a lot of disciples, and also the Venerable Jadron had a lot of disciples. After the Hong Kong conference, Shakajita conference, I thought money is compassion. Not to forget this, I wrote it on my palm. Money is compassion. You can do everything with right view and money. So we have to share money so that we can do many good things. My Dharma friend also said compassion is money. So when I was in Japan when I was staying in Japan without any money for 2 months, I prayed so that I could win scholarship. I prayed for 2 months to win the scholarship, but I got the good news that I won the scholarship for 4 years. That's how I could complete the study in Japan. So modern bhikshunis also need money. Why do they need money? They have to pay insurance, they have to buy computers, they have to go to hospital. So money is compassion. I worked at Joong-Ang monastic school for 26 years, so I am an affluent bhikshuni, but other bhikshunis do not have enough money. So that's why I drew this data. Only 1.5% of bhikshunis get paid about $3,000. So, based on the survey, we can see that bhikshunis do not have really money, so they cannot really focus on practice. We senior bhikshunis should know this. We have the two extreme spectrum of bhikshunis who are rich and who are poor. This doesn't make sense. Usually, the basic expenses for a bhikkhuni a month cost like $400 to $500. So we have the guarantee that they get about 1,000 won a month. We really didn't know what it was like in the reality. We all thought that at least bhikshunis get paid $1,000 a month, but it was not. So nuns complain that they have a lot of tasks and they do not have money and they cannot really communicate with the senior bhikshunis. Those were the difficulties bhikshunis complained in the survey. The Joong-Ang older administration also support bhikshunis in terms of hospital expenses. Also, the Bhikkhuni Association support them through screening their hospital visits. We pay their hospital costs. So in modern Korean Bhikkhuni Saṅgha, except a few affluent bhikshunis, most of the bhikshunis are having financial problems. We are all operator of the monastery, in a sense. And we asked about what kind of problem they are facing in operation of monastery. So first, they suffer lack of financial support, especially during the pandemic period.
직접 와서 기도비를 내고 싶지 카드를 끊으면 정성이 없어 보여서 싫다고 그랬어요. 이게 한국의 현실이에요. 그러니까는 코로나로 딱 발이 끊어지니까 그런 재정 수입이 태부적이 됐다.
So because of pandemic, the temples suffer from lack of financial support from devotees.
스님들은 한번 그 자리에 책임을 맡으면 10년, 30년. 그러니까는 이 변화무쌍한 사회에 너무나 힘들다.
So also nuns complain that the society is changing so rapidly, but once nuns once take up a duty, they do not move around or learn new things. So it is difficult. They said it is difficult to adapt to the newly changing society. So nuns are not well acquainted with the laws or administrative process. And also followers are not purely faithful. They judge nuns. They travel from one temple to another. And there are Buddhists who only come to temple on Buddha's birthday. In other countries, monasteries hold Monday meeting, Wednesday meeting. They have several assemblies, and the Korean nuns also like to follow those trends. That's why we have grown this much. But it's very hard. Now we are doing Sunday meetings, Sunday assemblies for children, and also for the officials. So it is difficult holding these assemblies and monasteries. This is one of the problems nuns complain. We nuns and the monks differently, separately run our monastery. So they expressed their hope that the National Bhikkhuni Association help in these areas. So in another survey question,
불자라는 일명에 계속 새로운 사건을 새로운 불자가 오니까 신들을 맞이합니다. 그 다음에 저 진영에서는 신도층이 고령한 나이가 들으셨어요. 그리고 그 새로운 젊은이들을 우리가 어린이법에 참여를 흡수해야 되는.
This is about overall feelings and changes in operating Buddhist temples. Nuns complain that it is hard to keep a fresh eye on newcomers who are not Buddhist yet. It is difficult because there are many people who practice and experience Buddhist studies more deeply than monks and nuns. Page 50. Look at the page 50.
그래서 이제 일격풀, 기운이 해서 저희가 소임 일격풀을 서로 엮어드리려고 그리고 긴 절에도 저희 기운이 해서 사람을 보내고 쉬운 일은 아닌데.
We are trying to establish a manpower pool at Bhikkhuni Association. So this we call duty platform on the Bhikkhuni Association homepage. So if there is a temple who want to recruit a staff, then we try to introduce staff to them. And so we also send the materials for Dharma talks. We usually have Dharma talks in the first day of every month in lunar calendar. The Joong-Ang Order also do this, and the Bhikkhuni Association also do this. They were request the Bhikkhuni Association should do this. Also, they requested Bhikkhuni Association should provide education on legal matters.
한국에서는 우리 불교를 갖고 있는 총체적인 이러한 걱정들을 하고 있습니다. 거의 제가 이제 해드렸고요.
It's almost done now.
우리가 제일 이제 그 각국에서 오신 한국 불교는 고민이 없을 거야 하시는 모든 선생님들과 스님들께 한국 불교는
So to people who wonder what kind of difficulties Korean Bhikkhuni Saṅgha have, these are the answers. Then how we are gonna deal with these problems? There are countries with many nuns. Then we can invite them and connect Korean bhikshunis to those nuns. And we can inspire their spirit when they first get ordained, and listen to their difficulties and help them to deal with difficulties. And we have to well communicate. There are many requests that they expect from the institute and also the Bhikkhuni Association. So we asked what they want from the Bhikkhuni Institute, the Research Institute, and the Bhikkhuni Association, and they wanted the institution to strengthen the status of the bhikshunis and strengthen and study more on Vinaya or etc.
한국에서는 이 내용을 안 쓰려고서 해관도 그렇고 한번 굉장히 노력하시는 것 같아요. 그리고 그 주제형 교육자를 제작해서 환경 문제, 기존의 복지 연구 이런 거 소통과
One of the requests was to be more green and not to use dispensaries and other items. How can we solve these problems? The reason I came to this conference is to show you that Korean Bhikkhuni Saṅgha have these problems, and to get help from different tradition. We have to educate together the international nuns, and we have to grow more manpower. So far in Korea, we had enough bhikshunis, but now we are suffering from lack of monastics, and this is not only a problem of Buddhism, but also the nation also faces deep plummeting of the number of population. Now I'm reaching the end. We took granted the gender inequality in the past. Now, new generations raise questions about it. And also, followers point gender discriminations. The last words is that today the changes in the external environment surrounding the Korean Bhikkhuni Saṅgha are also having a great influence on the form of consciousness of the beginners. We need to successfully respond to the rapidly changing environment of Korean Bhikshunis so that they can develop well in the distant future. However, the Korean Bhikshunis now has many challenges. They said that there are many difficulties in mutual communication due to the sharp drop in the number of monastics and the large difference in perception among generations within the monastics. While the elder generation, who are old in secular ages, lament that young practitioners do not have basic skills, the younger generation complain that it is difficult to adapt to the organizational structure of top-down command. Since I became the president of the Bhikkhuni Association, the first thing that I put most effort in is that to build a new community. There's a monastery, and if there are no monastics living there, then we can gather 5 to 6 nuns who can live together at that empty monastery. We have a meeting to discuss this matter, and the last month we had one. They are not, even if they are not a teacher and disciple, but nuns can get gathered together if they have the same motivation, then live together. We can have a new community. I think at least 5 to 10 people, nuns should live together to do something, to make at least run a project or something, to run a monastery. We have to exchange our study and ideas. Inside, we have to form a community among people, not teachers and disciples, but people who have the same motivation and intentions. This is what Bhikkhuni Saṅgha in Korea is promoting. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you.